This podcast is brought to you by the Deluxe Edition Network. To find more great shows on our network, head over to theden.show.
Hold on, stop.
Welcome back to the Shit Show 2.0.
Okay, Boomer.
Damn millennials. Wow.
Did not know that.
Even flirters who are obviously mentally ill. You want to be my wife? Oh, this is going to go downhill real quick.
What is going on, and welcome to Take on the World with
Yours truly, Johnny.
You got to talk into your mic.
What's going on, guys and girls? Johnny.
I know it's your first time.
I forgot I had a mic.
And me, Mike D. We are back again. We made it out of Philly alive, even though there were guns.
Well, it was close, man.
There were shots fired.
I think I found lead in my side.
While we were doing our pizza review, which you can see because I'll link it below. There were gunshots fired right outside the parking lot.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less of Philadelphia at this point.
So we did just do our cheesesteak and pizza review from Philly. We took a road trip down, checked it out. While we were there, we made a stop at the Eastern State Penitentiary.
Yes. Might I say, when I got home, I mangled the rest of that cheesesteak.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. It was so good. I didn't even heat it up. I just ate it cold. Because I don't care.
So from our review, the Carmen's cheesesteak came out on top.
Yeah. Yes.
And
go Carmen's.
Angelo's cheesesteak was good. It just, nitpicking it down to brass bolts, we picked the Carmen's cheesesteak as numero uno.
Yeah, we'll probably get a lot of shit because everybody's got their own favorite cheesesteak place.
Yeah, and that's fine. They could be as wrong as they want. So the Den Network, the podcast of the month this month is, pardon me.
Yeah, what's in this lineup?
It's Real Estate and You.
Sounds like my antithesis.
It's a real estate podcast. It's a highly rated real estate podcast, actually.
Really?
And he's from the Berks County area, so.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, real estate's. Ugh. It's disgusting.
Oh,
right
the
now.
prices are outrageous right now. Maybe you should listen to him and get some ideas for finding a house.
I don't know. Like I see houses go up for sale for like triple the price of what they should be, and they sell within like a week. And according to the media and everything, unemployment sky high. Everywhere you go, you see for help wanted signs, and everywhere. So it's almost like, are people not working? Where are these people coming from?
I don't know. I don't know much about real estate, but I was listening to something on one of the Lehigh Valley stations, and this Lehigh Valley station said there was only 12 listings in Alabama.
Wow.
Like, I find that very hard to believe.
I do too.
But that's what they said. I'm just repeating what I heard. Anyway, on the Deluxe Edition Network, Spotlight Podcast.
Check them out.
Real Estate and You. Check it out. So what else has been going on since we were in Philly?
Nothing.
Because Philly was 2 weeks ago. That episode went up yesterday.
Wow, was that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, a week. No.
Are you sure?
We didn't tape last weekend.
No.
So 2 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with the way gas is going, we might have to cut it back to 3 weeks. Or it's like, because I get like on Friday, I have to drive all over Hell's Half Acre to pick my daughter up, and then that chews up a lot of gas. And then the next day I'll come up here. So I always say yesterday I put $75 worth of gas in my car. It was on empty. I wanted to see how much it would cost for a whole tank. Oh, yeah, I was ugly, man. I sucked.
I know. I got gas just this past week. I paid $3.51, but I get discounts.
Yeah.
And now all my discounts are used up. But I only had 8 cents off a gallon from that one. But I use the blue handle at Rutter's, which is 88 octane.
Okay.
Which is 15% ethanol.
So you get what, better fuel economy?
I do get good gas mileage from it, but you have to have a newer car or supposedly it's no good for the engine. So it's like 2010 and up. So I have a 13. I haven't had any problems yet. We'll find out when my engine blows up and they tell me, oh, you got all this varnish in your engine.
Right. You haven't been using that blue handled shit from Rudders, have you?
No, not me.
Not at all. I'll look you blue in the face and tell you blue in the face.
But it's cheaper, so, I mean, it's like 30 cents cheaper a gallon. So that's what I use. Because I'm a cheap ass.
Gas went up from, no shit, one night. It was $3.77. Very next day, $4.19.
Yeah.
Somebody's getting rich and it ain't me.
So you've been staying home a lot?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just get in my car, pretend like I started, and pretend like I'm going somewhere, just to get out and do something.
I used to have a habit on the weekends. I just start my car and let it run for 15 minutes and shut itself off. I just
why?
Keep it lubed up, keep it warm.
Okay,
but during the winter, not really. Like you don't run it, your battery dies, and then you go out to use it, and you have a dead battery. And okay, it's stupid, but I do it.
Well, at least yours has one that'll shut off after so long. So I can see you starting your car and like the very next day you go, oh my God, it's running all night long.
Well, Lexi has the habit of leaving her lights on because she sits in her car. And I'll come out in the morning, I'll have to go in and wake her up. I'm like, your fucking lights are on. What the fuck? So I said, you keep doing that, your battery's going to die. Guess what happened the other morning?
Battery died.
She had to go down to my neighbor and get his jump pack and jump her car.
That's a pain in the ass.
Yes, it is.
And especially, now I don't know, not a mechanic, obviously, but I went to, I forget what the hell I was doing, but anyways, I parked my car and this lady comes up to me and she's like, excuse me. She's like, do you know how to jump a car? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm too heavy. I can't do it.
Yeah. And I can try and jump across the hood of your car. I ain't going to make it, though. Might scratch the shit out of your hood.
You mean like Starsky and Hutch jump? For all our millennial listeners, Starsky and Hutch was a 70s TV show. They used to slide across the hood of the car. Continue.
So I was like, sure. And luckily she had cables in the back of her car. And I hooked her car up to mine. And it took about 20 minutes, I'm not kidding, for her car to...
Wow.
And she kept turning the thing and it wouldn't turn over. And I'm like, damn, she's like, should it take this long? I'm like, I've never seen it take this long, but I'm like, just give it a minute. We'll see what happens. It's not going to hurt anything. And then, I think 15 minutes into it, she goes, oh, I just heard the radio come on. I was like, all right, well, that's a good sign. So we'll just keep going. Let it go for like another 5 minutes. And then it started up.
Wow.
I was like,
you might want to replace that battery.
I said, there's a advanced auto like right around the corner. I said, I would drive right in there and buy yourself a new battery. I said, don't put it in and everything and make sure it starts and works fine.
It could be her alternator too.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like,
were her terminals dirty? Because that
I checked them terminals.
I bet you did.
Oh, they weren't dirty when I was done.
When I was done, they was clean as a whistle.
But yeah, her battery looked a little beat up.
Oh,
Her box was a little beat up.
I almost feel like I have to edit that out. I'm not going to, but I feel like I should. Sorry, kids. Anyway.
Yeah, and then she thanked me and she's like, "Oh my God, you're a saint." And I'm like,
no, I'm not.
Talked to a couple other people who might disagree with you on that one.
So while we were down there, in Philly, we visited the Eastern State Penitentiary, and that was the second time I've been there. Now you've been there a bunch of times.
Yeah, I love it. It's every time I go there, it's like new to me.
Yeah, it's cool. I enjoyed it. I got some really good pictures, and I'm gonna be throwing them up as we're going through this.
Oh, good.
Like the one picture, it almost looks like a professional photographer took it.
No shit.
Yeah, and then you got a couple pictures of me COing down there.
Yep.
And then I got a picture of Andy Dupree. And I don't know if I should put that one up or not. But we met.
Wait, I thought it was Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, Dufresne. Where else did we come
I don't know.
Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption was down there. Got a good picture of him enjoying his suds.
Enjoying my bottle of suds. Actually, he didn't have a bottle of suds.
No, he didn't drink. No, he drank this.
No, he didn't drink on the roof. He's like, he didn't even take one of his own beers. He just sat there with a smile on his face, ear to ear.
I love that movie.
Yeah, well, what's that real actor's name? He's so anti-gun, but all his freaking movies he makes off of gun violence, makes all his money off of.
But he didn't use a gun in that movie.
Well, apparently he got hemmed up for allegedly using a gun.
Right. But they never showed him hold a gun in that movie. And look, if that's your conviction, okay, hold to it. But like Liam Neeson, who preaches to people about gun violence,
should go back to Belgium, or wherever you're from.
I love the Taken movie. I don't know why. It's so unrealistic, but
yeah,
he must kill like 500 people in those movies.
Yeah.
So don't preach to me about gun violence if you're going to portray it on TV.
Right. And I always laugh. We go back to Shawshank Redemption at the end. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie,
he escapes.
It's only like 20 years old. But at the end where he's in San Juantaneo, and Morgan Freeman comes up, and he's like, Andy, and he just looks over, and he's on his boat in the ocean, like, sanding it. I'm like, bro, it's been like 15 years, and that's the furthest you got on your boat?
Was it another 15 years after
I think it was like 10, but we'll just say 15. But even still, 10...
Well, the boat still had a hole in the side of it.
The boat's it's been 10 years, and he's still sanding the paint off this thing, and it's like half sunk in the ocean. And do
you know where they filmed that scene? Do you know where San Juantaneo is?
No.
The cinematic, not the cinematic San, that's supposed to be in Mexico, but the actual place where they filmed that is in St. Croix.
Huh.
We were down there.
Now, was he still working on his boat?
He was still working on the fucking boat. But yeah, we visited the jail. And
that's
and I thought,
more like that's a penitentiary.
Yeah. And I thought, hey, what a great episode, because number one, I love visiting prisons. When
you're not incarcerated.
If anybody didn't know, we were in Saipan. While we were in Saipan, I took John to the old Japanese prison that was there, which there was not much left of it, but it's still cool to see. And if you think the doors in this place were low, those doors in that prison, that Japanese prison, were tiny. So we're going to do this episode. We're going to go over some history of the Eastern State Penitentiary, some of the people who stayed there, and there's a surprise. I don't know if you know this one, but we'll wait till we get there. Don't Johnny jump ahead me. And also talk about some of the escapes from there.
Yeah.
And It's just actually pretty cool. So, Eastern State is one of the most historic prisons in the United States. It was built in 1829, and you know this. At the time, it was the largest building in the United States.
It's huge.
It is. That covers a lot of land. The way it's set up,
It's like 2 city blocks, isn't it?
it has to be.
It might even be more.
Well, I know we walked for
Like-
5 minutes till we were past it.
Like wide.
Yeah.
You know, then it still goes back, but it's huge.
Is it John Haviland? Is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce his name?
I believe so.
Was the architect. Now I'm gonna give you some interesting history on him because it's pretty cool. He designed it in 1821, and he would end up being nicknamed the man who jailed America.
But was he like thrown in? Was he the first prisoner?
No, he designed this prison, and he designed a bunch of prisons after it, including the old Essex prison in New Jersey, New Jersey Penitentiary that was open from 1833 to 1836.
Wow, that's
That's
it?
it?
3 years? Maybe that might be a typo.
Or maybe that's when he designed it between those dates.
Oh.
The Tombs in New York, which the Tombs, like, if you watch NYPD Blue or you watch Blue Bloods, they always talk about taking the prisoners to the Tombs, and I think they're about to close the Tombs.
Huh.
And they were 1835. Prisons in Missouri, Rhode Island, Arkansas, and then he also designed a couple other things. St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, 1822. The Pennsylvania Institute for
Wait, hold on. You have the address, but
I didn't finish it.
not where it goes, just what street it's on. It's on 256 South 8th something.
I think it might be in Philly.
Okay.
That's why I didn't put the whole thing. The Pennsylvania Institute for Deaf and Dumb.
What?
What? 1824. That's so wrong, dude.
Why are you laughing?
That's Broad and Pine in Philly. Today it's the University of the Arts. The Franklin Institute, not the one that's open today, but the original one, 1825.
Shit.
The Old City Hall, 1790. Walnut Street Theater, which is the oldest theater in the United States.
Huh.
So he was born in England. And he was bound to an architect in 1811. So I guess, the parents would put the kids with a professional of some sort to learn the trade. So he was bound to him. So I guess he had to stay with him for so long to learn the trade and then pay off the debt for learning the trade.
Kind of like going to school.
Or apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So he left that firm in hopes of being appointed to the Russian Imperial Corps of Engineers. I don't know what that means. But while he was in Russia, he met John Quincy Adams, one of the founders of this great nation, who encouraged him to come to the United States, and he did that in 1816.
Pause.
Okay.
Did you watch that? I think it's a couple years old, but it was the John Quincy Adams series.
No, I did not, and I did want to see it.
It's really good. You should check it out. Well, Paul Giamatti,
Oh, I didn't tell you who we saw last night.
Rob Schneider.
Yeah, we went to see Rob Schneider last night. That was fucking outstanding.
We're at the Santander Center.
The Performing Arts Center, yeah.
I did not know he went on the road and did comedy.
Well, he made a joke last night that, you see people who are rich, and then you see people who are rich. And he's talking about like Oprah and Jim Bezos, and he goes, they don't have to go on the road and come to Reading, Pennsylvania. He kept on pronouncing Reading intentionally wrong, just as a joke.
Yeah.
So he kept on saying Reading, Pennsylvania, and he goes, and there's like your airport don't work, so I had to fly to Philly, take a 2-hour Uber ride to Reading, but it was funny. We had a good time.
That's crazy. You would think that guy has money.
But he does. He says, I have money. He goes, but I still got to.
Wow.
And I guess someone,
He's just like
another comedian talked him into going on the road again. And I guess he enjoys it, but he's got a little kid.
Yeah.
Or little kids.
He's like regular old Joe Schmo, like we do. We have to drive to Philly and get on an airplane and Same thing.
Legit, he seemed like a guy we could have sitting at this table, having a beer with us, just bullshitting.
Well, spoiler alert, next episode.
Rob Schneider.
It's Rob Schneider.
Tune in. Don't be disappointed when he's not here.
He might be a little late.
Anyway, so when he came to the United States, he was one of the few professional architects that was here in the early 19th century. What's the Chinese Pagoda and Labyrinth Garden? He also designed that. Pennsylvania Fire Insurance Company, 1835. That's Walnut between 5th and 6th. Absolutely wonderful Egyptian front wall still is incorporated to the modern skyscraper that's there.
See, that's what I was telling you. That's the one thing that I love about going into the city, is just the architecture. And for me, the old architecture, like you're talking about here, is hands down some of the most beautiful artwork and stonework.
Yeah. Well, that the facade of this thing is impressive. Like, I love this building.
Just compared to your more modern, like, I don't know what you would call it. I don't know what style it is, but
Neolithic. I don't know. I just made that up.
It just looks more modern. Like, obviously, there's more glass.
It sounded smart.
Yeah.
So now I know if you watch our Philly episode, our Philly food fight episode, you'll hear me talk shit on Philly, and it's not just Philly. I don't particularly care for. I don't care for cities. All joking aside, all joking and busting Philly people's chops. I don't enjoy cities, and it's not that I don't enjoy the city, because when you bring up the architecture, I love that shit. Like, I've been to the top of the Sears Tower. I love that.
Well, so you're driving through it? So
I loved walking around Chicago. I loved walking around New York. I love walking around Philly. What I don't like is all the rest of the shit that comes with it. Trying to find a fucking parking space.
Yeah.
The cost of shit.
I wasn't too crazy about New York. Although I didn't have
I dislike New York State in general.
Yeah.
For Second Amendment reasons.
I wish I still had. I went there when I was 18, and it didn't work out so great for me and my group of friends we went with. Anyways, we didn't get to see a lot of cool stuff. Like the Twin Towers, that was cool. I got a picture of me somewhere floating out there where my friend, laid on the ground and took a shot straight up, and like we were all like,
those are always cool shots.
Yeah.
Like the scenery, I like the fact that the food and beer scene in the cities. Like, I really enjoyed going just to fucking 2 pizza places and a walk through farmers market in the city, and just seeing stuff that you normally don't see other places.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. I enjoy tasting different foods. I love tasting different beers, and you get it's all compressed in a smaller area in the city. For me, there's a lot to be said about living in the country. I don't have to worry about fucking parking here, and that's what aggravates me the most, I think.
Dude,
Living in towns and cities.
Even trying to find a bathroom. That was a little rough there.
But you made it through. You made it through.
Barely.
But so I talk a lot of shit on the cities, and even last night we were in Reading, and like, I dislike Reading, but there is some beautiful architecture even in Reading.
There is. Some of the churches and stuff there.
So don't take it at 100% face value when I talk shit on a city. There's a lot of shit I don't like about this. I don't like a lot of people around me. So, and I dislike people in general. So that's one of the biggest things. You're always stuffed in. You're like sardines in every place you go.
Well, I didn't feel that bad in Philly. Did you? Except for when we were in the market.
No, we were there on a Saturday.
I think that's going to be like that market.
That market's a draw on a Saturday. But even when we first got there, it wasn't bad. And as the day started going on,
yeah, it picked up.
Because we were there 2 hours, and it picked up, and there's a lot more people, and it just started annoying me. And then we could make fun of the Wooks walking by.
Somebody was telling me. I know who it is. I'm just not saying it. But they said, "Did you pass the place that had the Iberico ham?" And I said, "No." He's like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Dude," I said, "I was on like information overload. I wanted to buy so much things.
Oh my God.
So many things, but A, I didn't want to blow all my money, and B, we were just there specifically for,
Well, one of the pictures I posted was that whatever that fucking Wagyu was, $128 a pound.
Yeah, no thanks.
So anyway, back when this was built, the Eastern State Penitentiary, the city wasn't that. This was actually 3 miles outside of the city.
Where it still stands today?
Yeah. Now, we were still in the city when we left there.
Yeah.
So, that's how much that's expanded since then, which I'd love to see Philly back then. So, when they built this jail, it was really a break from the more popular prison design of the time. And I don't know, there's a special word for it, and I wrote it down, then I took it off because I knew I wouldn't be able to fucking pronounce it today. The prison design, what it meant was there was almost a guard tower in the center inside the building. And then it was either a half moon or a full circle around that guard tower. And then it was stacked tiers. So it was like a wheel, and the hub was the
Officer station.
The officer station. With this design, there was a central hub, and each block, each housing unit, radiated from the center. And this, the concept behind...
It was like the spokes of a wheel.
Yes. The concept behind this design and the application of the form of punishment or incarceration was considered what they called the Pennsylvania system. And that's how influential this singular prison was. So the exterior was intentionally designed to look menacing, fearsome, imposing. And like, if you walk by it now, it's an imposing facade up front.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Now, when we were on the tour, I listened to a little bit of the audio tour with Steve Buscemi.
I still can't believe you. Every time I think of Steve Buscemi, I think of him in that movie with Adam Sandler, where either A, he calls him, and Adam Sandler apologizes to him, and he's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much," and hangs up the phone, and he looks in the mirror, and he like puts his gun down, crosses his name off his hit list, and then puts the makeup on and starts dancing in the mirror.
Was that Mr. Deeds?
No, Mr. Deeds.
He was in Mr. Deeds too.
He was in Mr. Deeds. I was going to say that one too, where he has his real googly eyes.
Yeah,
and he orders pizza with Oreos on it.
Yeah,
here you go, pal. Here's your pizza with crushed up Oreos on it, just the way you like it. So anyway, Steve Buscemi is narrating this.
Right. So he was talking about the arrow slits in the front of the building. So they're just for show. They don't go anywhere. They're closed up behind, but they wanted the appearance of a fort or a castle. So like you would have battlements in a regular castle, you'd have arrow slits where archers could shoot out of, and it'd be hard to shoot in. Well, that they have those on the facade of this to look menacing. But the interior was designed to resemble a church. And now we saw a lot of the woodwork, and now some of it was exposed. I bet there was in that central hub where they had it was all you could see was the wood frame.
Yeah,
I have a picture of that. I'll put it here. That I think at one time was probably coated with other wood, like it had wood planking on it.
Yeah,
which is very indicative of what church ceilings would look like in some places.
I don't know. You think so? A lot of churches, like especially Catholic churches, they're pretty much open with the open beams. There was a Lutheran church that I used to go to, and it was the same way, and it was awesome looking because it was just all exposed beams, didn't cover it or nothing.
I've seen it that way, but I've seen churches with ornate wood ceilings. So anyway, that's how it was designed on the inside. this design became, and these features became quite popular and was applied to a lot of prisons that were built in the nation afterwards. And like I said, it became known as the Pennsylvania system. The ideas for the operation of the jail were based on Quaker ideology.
Quakers.
So the Quakers were very strict religious order.
When I think of Quaker, I think of
Quaker Oats.
a pilgrim.
Right.
With the top hat.
But that was all very religious. So after Eastern State was built, over 300 prisons around the world were modeled after this one prison. Architects and tourists alike came to marvel at the building. The year that it was finished, oh no, hold on. What year was it finished? I don't remember. But, okay, over 10,000 tourists visited that jail in 1958 alone. 1858. And that was the most in 1 year while the prison was operating. Like, that's a lot of people to go 3 miles outside the city.
I wonder if they had to pay to get in.
I think they did, because I was watching another video on the Bedlam Asylum in Great Britain, and they used to have people come and pay to come and tour the asylum to see the crazy people, and they would use that money to help operate the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think probably, I don't know. At this point, when it was built,
just an extra $10 to nightstick somebody.
Yeah. It's a $2 entry fee, but if you want to slap somebody with a blackjack, it's 10. The initial expense cost in 1836 was $770,000. That's a lot of fucking money back then. It was said Eastern State Pen was the second only to the U.S. Capitol in terms of most expensive government-funded building to date. So, the word penitentiary stems from, and you were talking about this while we were there, stems from the word penitent, which is a religious term to seek forgiveness for your sins.
Yes.
Haviland's theory was that when kept in silence with no other communication between prisoners, inmates would be forced to reflect on their misdeeds. So each cell had a slit in the ceiling, and it was called the Eye of God. And basically, it'd be God looking in on you, you're looking back at God and reflecting on the crimes you committed. The other theory was, and you told me this while we were there, was the doorways are so small that you'd have to stoop to go in. You'd have to bend down to go in the cell.
Yeah.
Now, I know when I worked at Lehigh County Prison that what they called old jail, which was their old jail, because they have a new jail now. But in the old jail, the older jail was a portion of the jail called new jail. Very confusing. Anyway, they have a new prison completely built now. I always wondered why the doorways to the cells were so short, and they were like 3 or 4 foot thick. So you had to bend down and walk like 2 steps to get into the cell and stay bent down. And that was supposedly to force prisoners to bend over and be penitent while they're entering their cell.
Yeah. I think what I remember hearing that was on the thing.
The tour?
The tour. And they said, or maybe it was in a documentary, I don't remember. But it was, you're bowing down to God. You're humbling yourself before God.
So they said some believe that the doors are so small that prisoners would have to have a harder time getting in and out, minimizing the ability to attack an officer, which I would agree with as well. That may have been a primary or secondary focus. Others explain the small doors forced prisoners to bow while entering the cell. This design related to the penitence and its ties to the religious inspiration of the jail, which I tend to believe for this jail as well. And I don't know if that carried on to other prisons.
Yeah, because they tried to just basically isolate you and then they give you a Bible, and just by not having contact with other people and reading your Bible, over and over again.
Look at Johnny Jump Ahead. Look at the next sentence.
I give up.
No, that's good. It fits right in, bro. The prison was opened in 1829. Prisoners were as soon as they came in the front doors, after they saw that front facade, the hood was put over their head, and they were escorted to their cells so that they couldn't learn the layout of the prison. And they were permitted only to possess a Bible.
Let's go on Google Earth and see what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, the inside layout, like you can look at the overhead and you can kind of get an idea, but the cells had central heating.
The place is very confusing.
It is.
Even though it's a pinwheel, it's very fucking confusing.
I went out one door, came in another. I'm like, how the fuck I get here?
I think we walked into the same place like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever found the hole, did we?
I think that was the hole.
Because the hole didn't have exercise yards. It was literally just a box.
Right, and I think that was where the walls were down in the back. Actually, there was a whole hole, and we'll get to that later, but there was, beneath the hole, there was another hole that we would now call the buck. So you go to the hole, and you're bad at the hole, you go to the buck.
I was bad in your hole.
And I jumped your car.
Wound up in the buck.
Central heating and flush toilets, which was a massive upgrade from any other jail that was out there at the time.
They say central heating, albeit these cells are huge. I don't know what the specs on them are, but it's like a little radiator.
Yeah.
Next to the toilet. I can't imagine you sitting on your bunker any way further away from that thing.
Yeah, I don't know. And all the controls and pipes leading were in the hallway.
I wonder, do you think they had forms they had to fill out? Like, my radiator not working.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Okay, pal. We'll be right there.
Inmates were allowed to occupy themselves with labor, but it was within their cell. Like, they didn't get out of their cell and go to
that's the crazy part.
They had to do everything in their cell. All the toilets were flushed remotely twice a week.
Oh.
I can only imagine.
The mounds of dookie.
I can only imagine.
What do you think they ate? Did we get to that?
Lobster?
Yeah. Actually, did you know?
I know. I do. That's why I said it. But that was in New England. The original design of the building was for 7 one-story cell blocks. But by the time cell block 3 was completed, the prison was already over capacity. All subsequent cell blocks had 2 floors, except there's 2 of them that have 3 floors.
I'll say that this seems like a continuing theme.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout every prison. I don't just say in America, everywhere. It's, they build it for so many people, and then it's like, oh, this thing's, it's over capacity. It's over capacity. It's over capacity. And it's almost like it doesn't matter how many prisons you build, cells you have. It's like when somebody walk around like, hey, what's up with all these empty cells? We need to fill these things up, man.
Yeah. But I know a prison, and I won't mention any names, that each unit was meant to hold 48 inmates. They had 1 bunk in every cell. And then they realized that wasn't going to be enough. And fast forward 15 years later, every cell in the jail has 2 bunks. 96 inmates on a unit that originally was meant for 48.
Yeah.
And is there room for them? Yeah. But was it designed that way? No. It really wasn't.
It's overcrowded. But now, in a pandemic situation, what do you do with a facility that has, what do you do?
Now you have all those people.
It's like being on a ship,
Well, see, that's what happened here. A lot of the people who died in this prison died from TB, tuberculosis.
On that John Quincy Adams show I was telling you about earlier, they portrayed a part. He went over to like Belgium or one of those, and he was sick for like months, and you thought he was going to die. And like, what the hell? I looked it up, and they said that they called it Amsterdam fever. They don't know what it was, but it was like flu-like symptoms, and I think you could die from it, but it only affected like Americans and like people who weren't from that area of Europe. And yeah, Amsterdam. I wonder if that was like tuberculosis. I didn't know like an early form of it, but
I think it was tuberculosis that hit this. We'll get there.
Well, yeah, but tuberculosis is very contagious, especially
right.
in a confined facility.
But here's the thing that I don't understand. This is a confined facility, but these inmates had no interaction with other inmates in the beginning.
True.
So I don't know when TV hit. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think you'd. I don't know. Like, did they have an infirmary?
Yes, we were on the infirmary block.
So yeah, but I mean, was that a part of the original build?
Here's a picture right here of the steel gate with the
cross on it. Yeah, but was that added later?
I don't know. I don't know when that was added. I don't know if that was
added. It sucks that you couldn't go in there.
Because when it started getting overcrowded, they added more units to this jail.
Yeah. I believe the one that you got a picture of you, CON, at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
Which you begrudgingly refused, but eventually went up there. Which got a good picture. I'm probably jumping ahead. But anyways, I'm not going to shit.
Oh, here we go. Towards the end, cell blocks 14 and 15 were hastily built due to overcrowding.
Yeah.
Now it was Mikey Meander ahead.
And so they added more cells on top of the ones on the bottom, and those people weren't allowed to wreck. They couldn't wreck outside. And what they said, which didn't make sense, was they would wreck in the opposite cell. Yeah. So I'm like,
but why don't you just stay in your fucking cell?
Yeah, I don't get that. Boy, it's a big difference.
So the new blocks that they built towards the end were designed and built by prisoners.
Really?
Yes. Cell block 15 was for the worst behaved prisoners. The guards were often gated off from them entirely, which, like, they would not really do rounds on that block. They didn't care what happened to them. Mm-hmm. Inmates were punished with the individual treatment system. It's in quotes.
I think we all know what that means.
At this time, this form of punishment was thought to be the most effective. They would be separate from others. Well, yeah. Well, they still do that today. Like, if you get in trouble in the jail, you go to the hole. You get in trouble in the hole, you go to the buck.
I'm envisioning like a lot of beatdowns. A lot of Quaker beatdowns.
Well, there was rumors, and we'll get to that too, of like vast mistreatment in this institution.
So this is like I would imagine if like they would. This is the times back then where they put people on that wooden sawhorse.
The stocks.
Well, and the stocks, but there was also another one where they'd set you on looked like a wooden table, but it was pointed like that.
Ugh.
So they tie your feet at the bottom and they make you sit on that for like hours on end. So you're sitting on like a sharp thing in your crotch, and like there's no comfortable way to sit on that.
Oh, you like that, don't you?
Well, I like the more diamond shape where it's more pointed, so it actually goes in. That one's called we covered that on
yes,
one of our old podcasts. What the hell was that thing called?
Beat me, make me bleed.
Yeah, the Judas chair or something?
Something like that.
Anywho, yeah, I don't think, like, if you were acting up, you probably got smacked up.
I bet. So they said that the lack of human interaction had a predictable detrimental effect on mental health of inmates, and by 1913, the idea of penitence and silence were officially scrapped. Anytime an inmate was out of their cell, they were hooded, so they could not communicate with anyone. They were allowed to bathe at least once a week or so.
Yeah, where did they go? I didn't remember seeing the showers there.
Cat bath in your sink.
that what it was?
I don't know.
And
The hoods were used to keep the prisoners from knowing the layout of the prison. I mean, you can only, if you're hooded and you can't see, you can only determine so far away from your cell that, like, okay, I went so many paces and turned right, now what? Like, you're going to lose track. The only contact a prisoner would have was the occasional interaction with the warden, a clergyman, or visiting officials. Now, you told me this when we were down there, and that they would put felt or leather on the wheels of the food cart to silence the food cart so they wouldn't know when it was coming down the hall. Although I find that hard to believe too. And that the officers wore wool socks over their shoes to silence their footsteps.
Yeah, because they had to, like, now I don't know what this meant, but they said they had to they came up with ingenious ways to, like, masturbation was forbidden. That was part of the Quaker system, like, oh, don't you touch your penis! Yeah. And, so they guess they had, to stop that. And, oh man, you imagine that? That's all you're doing all day long, keeping guys from whacking off. They go, put your felt socks on. That's probably a rookie's job. And, they go put these crusty felt socks on. You can go freaking ninja down the hallway and I caught you with your penis in your hand. What happens when I don't know, you go punch him in the nuts or something? But anyhow, they said they found ingenious ways to stop them from masturbating. Whatever the hell that means.
I don't know.
But apparently it was a big thing. Like nowadays, like
put hot pepper on their hands? I don't know.
I got this poster Rita Hayworth. You want it?
The very first inmate at Eastern State Penitentiary was Charles Williams, who had been sentenced to 2 years for theft of a watch, a gold seal, and a gold key. Now they had females there too, and I didn't know this until I started doing this research. They had females there. The first female came in 1831, and in 1923, all the female prisoners were moved to another prison in Muncie, PA. Charles Dickens visited the jail in 1842, and he wrote, I'm not going to read all this because, like, that's just ridiculous.
That's a lot.
But basically, he said that the system there, the isolation, would drive people mad.
Yeah, they found that to be.
And he said, I denounce this as a form of punishment. It should not be allowed to happen.
Makes people worse.
He said the system was rigid, strict, and hopeless. And I think he just bashes the whole system. Interesting. Dickens also wrote that he said he saw many prisoners who were allowed to keep pets, including rabbits, birds, and cats in their cells. During World War II, some inmates did work for the War Protection Board, fashioning model ships, making tent pegs. So you're basically making a shank.
Yeah, right? Here, we're going to give you this knife. You're going to whittle out a bunch of these pointy, sharp sticks.
So the state legislature wanted to abandon Eastern State in 1945.
Hang on. Let me back this up.
Okay.
When do you think they first figured out that inmates were boofing shit? That's the word we use. That means if you're sticking stuff up your ass to hide it.
Your prison pocket.
Yeah, your prison pocket.
I don't know, dude.
Like, maybe correct me. Maybe that was just a thing. Like they did it back then.
Maybe that's how they hid their penis while they were not supposed to be masturbating. They put it in their prison pocket.
I should start asking all these questions next time I go down there. What's the first incident you guys pulled something out of somebody's ass? Well, I just watched this the other day with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart.
Get Hard.
He's like, I keistered that. He's like, you did what? He's like, I shoved it up my butt. He goes, it's just
You did what?
He's like, it's really simple. You just have to. It's a simple breathing exercise while you relax your sphincter. And he's like,
That movie was funny. So, in 1953, they changed the name of the institution from Eastern State Penitentiary to State Correction Institution, Philadelphia. SCI FA. For short.
Pho. I like pho.
In 1956, Death Row was the last major addition built on the complex, where the complex is now. By now, there's 1,000 cells within the prison.
That Death Row is eerie.
Yeah.
It looks like you were literally killed in your cell.
But that was the part that was locked off.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go in.
Yeah. That last time I was there, you could go in that. You could walk around. You could go in all the cells. And you could go in the infirmary. You can walk back there. They had an old dentist chair with like this old freaking like lamp.
Yeah, there's a picture of that online, but
that was all in there.
we didn't get to see that because that part of the jail was closed.
Yeah. They're closing a lot of it.
No prisoners were ever executed at Eastern State Penitentiary. They were transferred to another jail to do that at the time. By 1960, the prison was in despair. It was in very poor condition.
It's getting... Someday it won't be there.
Yeah.
It'll just be the outside walls.
Yeah. I don't think those outside walls are going any place anytime soon.
But I mean, you'll have the rubble. But I think someday it'll get to the point where you're not allowed to go in there anymore and look around.
The prison's largest riot ever was in January of 1961. It lasted for hours and required additional help from police and state troopers. It began with 30 inmates who beat guards, released other inmates being kept in a punishment block. The prisoners planned to escape in a vehicle stolen from the garage. However, Operation Breakout was initiated by the authorities. They used tear gas and billy clubs to subdue the inmates. I bet that's all that happened.
Yeah. Now, Mr.
The prison was investigated multiple times, starting in 1831, for failing to adhere to Pennsylvania system. In particular, the punishment of prisoners was looked into. For years, there were allegations of guards abusing prisoners, despite plans for the two groups to rarely interact. So there was hardly any interaction, but they were abusing them. The cost of this style of solitary confinement was becoming prohibitive, and it still wasn't clear that this approach was even effective. So they didn't even know if it was working. I tend to believe that a harsh environment in jail instead of a cushy environment works. But whatever.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm torn.
I don't think you should be abused, but I don't think it should be a pleasant stay.
Right. No. Because then it doesn't matter what's effective in trying to keep you from coming back. If you're like, yeah, well, you know what? Prison's really not that bad on this shit. I've weighed the options and I'll do my time.
Yeah. So I guess because in the beginning, the prison terms were relatively short.
That didn't seem short.
It didn't affect them as badly, but by the 1860s, where the sentences start getting longer and longer for more serious crimes, they were spending longer and longer periods of solitary confinement. Over the decades, the system of instituting total solitude for prisoners was enforced less and less. For example, there are records of baseball teams at the penitentiary, and Al Capone actually bought team uniforms for the baseball team.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. When I was doing my research, I found that. So a little bit of spoiler, Al Capone was locked up here.
Right.
But did you know what the circumstances behind his lockup were?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Well, there's like two two reasons they think. They're not really sure.
All right, we're going to get to it. It's on here.
Yeah. Also, with the baseball thing, they said that I guess the prison officials told them, "Hey, guys, can you tone it down a little bit out there? Like, we don't want the people on the outside thinking like you guys are having all kinds of fun out here playing baseball." So they had to kind of like keep it quiet.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't get it taken away from them.
Some inmates had so the baseball teams were in like 1909. Some inmates had to double up in cells as early as 1866 as the prison became overcrowded. After that, rules regarding letter correspondence to families and visits were relaxed. The Pennsylvania system officially ended in 1913. Cell block 13 was finished by 1926. It consisted of 10 solitary cells that were unlit and very poorly ventilated. So that was the hole, or the Klondike, they called it. So these cells measured 4 feet by 8 feet, 8 feet tall. Now you know that the cells that we were in, those cells were huge.
Yeah.
Like the ceilings on them were like 12 feet.
Yeah.
Like, so the rest of the jail had pretty high ceilings. It was a relatively large cell compared to today's standards.
I almost like a like a small hotel room.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, pretty much.
Well, they fit a car in one of them.
Right. Yeah.
So, Block 13 was closed in 1959 after Block 15 was open to take its place, following an investigation committee recommending that prisons cease the use of solitary cells. Inmates were kept in these solitary cells for like 30 days at a time, 30 days in a hole. They did have a radiator inside for heat, but it was said that these were sometimes turned to full blast to further punishment of inmates. So someone throws their food tray out, turn the heat up.
Okay, so I guess they got pretty hot in there.
Yeah. In 1920, some inmates were offered plastic surgery to reportedly make them seem friendlier to society. It's unknown whether any inmates went for it. You're too ugly. Let's fix you up.
Yeah. Damn, what's your last name? Lee? Ugly?
By 1926, there were 1,700 inmates at that jail. 1,000 cells, 1,700 inmates.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad in the big ones.
It says at this point, when there were 1,700 inmates, there was only 844 to 885 cells available. Whew. In 1929, a film was produced at the Penitentiary's 100th anniversary. It showed some of the changes made to the prison since the solitary system eroded, such as a huge bakery, kitchen staffed 24/7 by inmates.
I'd like to see this film.
Inmates filling the yard. Yeah, I would too. Workshops where they labored and crafted, made crafts. Communal dining area, which when we had one, that was a fucking
Nightmare.
oh my dude. Oh, I hated that. The first communal dining halls were opened in 1924. 2 to 3 inmates were in every cell. Wow.
What was that?
Don't know.
Dude, I well, side note here, I don't know what prison it was, but they showed a riot popping off in the chow hall, and they had installed these fucking cannons in the ceiling, and they dropped down out of the ceiling, and they just shot those like freaking less lethal rubber, and it was just like 3 loud explosions, and then you see everybody just hit the floor, and then all the freaking COs come in the riot gear and take control of the situation. But I was like, damn. And I think like a warning bell, like said, like, you don't get down. Well, they're gonna shoot anyways, but
yeah,
it's advised to get down.
In 1933, these inmates rioted over overcrowding, setting fire to cells. In 1934, there was a riot over low wages that also led to cell fires, started by shorting electrical outlets. In the 1930s, the penitentiary had roughly 1,800 inmates at once. During World War II, we already talked about that. We go on to some of the notable prisoners that were at this prison, and the very first one shocked the shit out of me. Did you know about the dog that was sentenced to life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you knew about that. So, in 1924, Governor Gifford Pigel allegedly sentenced a Pep the cat murdering dog, an actual dog, to a life sentence at Eastern State Penitentiary. Pep had allegedly murdered the governor's cherished cat. Prison records reflect that Pep was assigned inmate number C2559, which I have his mugshot. I'm going to put it up here. His actual mugshot. However, the reason for his incarceration was up for some debate. A contemporary newspaper article reported that the governor donated his dog to the prison to increase morale. Here's the true story. The true story is the governor received Pep as a puppy from a nephew of his wife. Pep was considered part of the family. He grew to develop a nasty habit of chewing up furniture. It got so bad that the governor family considered letting him go. So the governor went on a trip to Maine, and he saw how some of the prisons up there had therapy dogs. So when he came home, he discussed this with Herbert Smith, who was the warden at the time, and Pep was given as a gift to the state prison, where the famous mugshot was taken, either as a joke or as a publicity stunt. So they said there's a question: how did the cat murdering story spread? And it basically was a fucking idiot reporter, pretty much. So Alphonse Scarface Capone was locked up there, and they have a cell. They have the Capone cell there, and I have a picture of it. And
that wasn't the same Capone cell.
Right. They said they don't even know exactly which cell was his.
It was not that. I meant what I'm trying to say. What you saw inside that cell, they have the cell decorated sort of to like what he had it.
Right.
But it did not look like that last time I was there. It did not. It wasn't green with the two bunks in it.
Okay.
It had like a red velvet. What are those, like high chairs? Like a high back chair?
Yeah.
Not a recliner, but
like a throne.
There was a fancy record player with the freaking horn and everything. There was a big carpet in there. So I wonder why they changed it.
So Chicago's most famous crime boss spent 8 months at Eastern State Penitentiary, 1929 to 1930. He was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon. And this was Capone's first prison sentence. His time at Eastern State was spent in relative luxury. His cell on what they called the Park Avenue block had fine furniture, oriental rugs, and a cabinet radio. So they believe that he intentionally got locked up in Philly because this was after the St. Valentine's Day massacre. And they thought that he got locked up there to basically protect them from any retaliation hit.
Yeah. Well, so, what a better place to be.
Yeah. So while at Eastern State, Capone purchased baseball uniforms for his fellow inmates. So there is a picture the day he was released, but he's not in the picture. Like there was crowds outside of jail the day he was released, but he was not in the picture that they took. So Victor Babe Anderoli was convicted of killing a Pennsylvania state trooper in 1937. served a life sentence for first-degree murder. He escaped in 1943 by hiding a delivery truck that was leaving the prison. He was caught several weeks later in Johnny's neck of the woods, Chester, PA. They caught up to him, but they shot him dead. So he never went back to jail.
Huh.
William Francis Slick Willie Sutton. He was like one of the most famous bank robbers in history.
Why do they call you Slick Willie? My mom called me slicking it up my willie when I was a kid. They called me slicking up my willie when I was here last time.
He was also called the Gentleman Bandit because he was so charming during his robberies. He was sometimes also called the Actor due to his MO of dressing up and acting like a police officer delivery person during robberies.
That's slick.
Yeah. He was a Brooklyn native and committed over 50 bank robberies. He landed at Eastern State after being caught robbing the Corn Exchange at 6th and Market Streets in Philly.
Is that corn or coin?
It said corn.
What the fuck is the Corn Exchange?
I don't know.
This motherfucker got 5 years hard time for robbing some ear of corn. Strong-arming somebody for some ear of corn.
In 1945, Sutton, along with 11 other prisoners, escaped from Eastern State Penitentiary with an inmate dug a tunnel that went 100 feet underground. He was recaptured just minutes later. In the course of his criminal career, he was credited with over 50 bank robberies, 3 successful prison escapes, and over 30 years behind bars. He died in 1980.
Wow. So this prison escape you just talked about, it was actually, I don't know how long it took them to dig underneath, but they were shoring the walls up with wood. There's pictures of it. They had freaking, they had an electric cord running through it with lights like every
Just like the
5 feet. Yeah.
Frank J. Tenuto, a.k.a. the Angel, as in of Death, was a mob hitman for Philadelphia who spent some time in Eastern State in the 30s and 40s. Interesting, in 1946, him and Willie Sutton were both transferred to Holmesburg Prison, and they both successfully escaped in 1947. Morris the Rabbi. Now we talked about this guy in one of our podcasts.
Really?
Yeah. I don't remember which one though. Morris the Rabbi Baldler. He entered Eastern State in 1942. He was serving a life sentence for being a member of the arsenic murder ring in Philadelphia. Called a veteran witch doctor and compounder of charms. Like this was a sophisticated murder ring. They appealed to women who were willing to murder their husbands, and arsenic was not the only method used. In order to collect their husbands' insurance policies between 1932 and 1937, the group was responsible for at least the death of 30 people. 16 men and women were convicted for participating in the syndicate, including Baldler and Horace Perlman. And it was Paul and Horace Perlman. They were brothers or cousins that were part of the ring. I know we talked about this.
I don't remember this at all. This might have been that.
Maybe
the night that never aired.
Heck yeah.
The lost tapes.
There's a couple lost tapes. They shall never see the light of day. He wasn't a real rabbi, but he professed to have magic healing powers. Provided superstitions with charms and so-called curses.
I love how the majority of these guys all have nicknames.
Yeah.
Jimmy the Wing.
So after he got out, he came back and basically did prison ministry. Leo Callahan. Of the approximately 100 inmates who escaped from Eastern State, Leo Callahan was the only one that got away with it. Assault and battery with intent to kill brought Callahan to Eastern State Penitentiary. Making a makeshift wooden ladder brought him out.
No shit.
In 1923, Callahan and 5 other inmates built a ladder. They used to scale the east wall of the penitentiary His 5 accomplices were eventually captured, but Callahan is still at large, although now he'd be 110 years old.
Wow.
So, Frida Frost, female inmates were part of the landscape of Eastern State for almost 100 years. Frida Frost was the last of them, transferred to the Muncie Industrial Home for Women in 1923. Frost's departure marked the end of an era. She was the last female prisoner housed there. She was serving a 20-year sentence for murder. She poisoned her husband. And I put this last one on Mary Ash. She was arrested for arson in 1873. She was 11 years old.
Holy fuck.
She was in prison at Eastern State for 4 years sentence. Once inside, she caught TV and died at age 13. So these are the prison breaks, the major ones, basically. There were 100 escapes from over the walls in the 142-year span of the prison.
That's not a good track record.
Not really.
That's
in 1832, the first prisoner to escape, who served as a waiter for the warden at the time, he basically stole the warden's silverware and his bed sheets, and he lowered himself from the roof and made a run for it. He was recaptured. And then they made him the warden's servant again. And he did the exact same thing again.
Fucking idiot.
Stole the silverware and the sheets and went over the wall. And he was also recaptured the second time. That's ridiculous. Here, we gave you a chance. Come on back and just keep serving me.
Now, don't do that again. I trust you.
In July 1923, Leo Callahan, 5 armed accomplices.
We already read that one.
Yeah, but this is just the escapes now. So, he was. One made it all the way to Honolulu of those 5 before he was recaptured, and he was the only. Leo Callahan was the only one not recaptured. 1927, September 4th, William Bishi,
yes.
An inmate who had been a trusted electrical engineer for the prison.
An electrical engineer for the prison.
An electrician. Threw a guard off the corner tower before escaping over the wall with fellow inmate William Lynch. Authorities caught up to Lynch 4 days later, but Bishi was free for 7 years before they caught him. 1945 inmate Clarence Clindenus.
There we go.
Plaster worker, constructed a tunnel leading from cell block 7 out to Fairmount Avenue and 22nd Street, just outside the prison wall, to which he and 11 others escaped. All 12 were quickly apprehended.
Was that the one where they were literally popped up out of the street?
Yeah. Well, he was out for 2 hours and he got an extra 10 years added to his sentence for.
I think they said he actually walked back and knocked on the prison door and he was like, he had no money, nowhere to go, no way out of the city, and he's wanted on the run. So he's like, fuckhead.
That was the escape that Slick Willie Sutton went out
in. Slick Willie.
The tunnel started from cell number 68 in cell block 7. They worked in pairs 30 minutes. That's what you were talking about. This was the huge tunnel.
Yeah.
Where
the fuck?
The tunnel was just 31 inches wide.
Who's not missing? Who's not noticing the shelves full of 2x4s going missing?
Yeah. Anyway,
what the fuck?
This prison escape led to the resignation of Warden Smith. All the inmates were captured. So when they renovated this place in the 30s, they found 30 incomplete inmate dug tunnels.
No shit.
30 fucking tunnels. So I go on to talk about the deaths at Eastern State Penitentiary, there were over 1,000 entries recorded in the death ledger, which documented inmates who died and the cause and the year. One of the youngest was Mary Ash, who was 11. There was an unusually high number of deaths in 1881 and 1882, and they think it was because of the spread of tuberculosis. 1881, one inmate committed suicide after murdering his cellmate. There were 2 inmate suicides recorded in 1882, committed by 2 men sentenced at the same time as vagrants. So they went to jail for vagrancy and committed suicide.
Huh.
February 5th, 1940, an inmate named Joseph Havel used scissors to stab and kill his cellmate, George Kopp. That was his cellmate. It occurred in cell 49 in B8.
Yeah, I don't think any of these cells were labeled, were they?
I don't. Honestly, I'd have to look at my pictures.
They had a brass tag that had, like, you could slide a card into it above the cell, and I would imagine that probably gave all the info. And well, maybe it was on the door. It's been so long.
Yeah. Because this was painted on. But this door would be way too big for that hole. Too tall.
Yeah.
So, the severe punishment at the jail when prisoners did not comply to the separate system or by acting out or talking, some of the punishments would include reduced food portions, less time outside, but there were other far, far worse forms of punishment. In addition to the dark cells on Block 13, there are tales of more severe punishment, including torture, at the hands of the officers, guards. In the winter, they were dunked in a bath and hung on a wall so the ice would form on their skin.
That sounds nice.
In the mad chair, prisoners would be bound so tightly that their circulation was cut off, sometimes left them permanently injured, and some say led to amputation in some cases. The iron gag was used to secure an inmate's mouth, ripping the tongue and mouth while the hands were bound behind the back. On the morning of June 27th, 1933, a 44-year-old prisoner by the name of Matthias Macumsey was tortured with the iron gag for talking. The iron bit was roughly an inch square and placed in Macumsey's mouth. It was fastened in place with chains around the neck. It secured the arm high behind the back in a very painful manner. The design was such that dropping the arms to relieve the pressure would force the gag further in your mouth. Ugh.
Jesus Christ.
Macumsey died as a result. It was ruled he died of
apoplexy?
Yeah. Severe, in this case, likely meaning severe bleeding of a cavity or organ.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of rumors of haunting at the jail.
Oh. I
So,
can see that.
This was the first thing that this article said. Those who run the penitentiary and tours insist the prison is not haunted and are a bit sensitive to not exploring or making fun of the prison's darker past. However, there are many who believe that Eastern State Penitentiary is one of the most haunted spots in America.
Wait a minute. They have a haunted prison tour.
I know. They had ghost hunters in here.
Yeah. Oh, we don't want to exploit it.
But we're going to do a Halloween night ghost hunters.
Yes. We're going to have a beer garden out there and everything.
There are many stories from visitors, inmates, and former guards of strange happenings dating back as far as 1940s. A shadowy figure.
That was just me running for the bathroom.
A shadowy figure was spotted atop one of the guard towers, looking out over the yard. Previous tour guide at the prison said there was a photo taken in a cell in cell block 2 showing what seems to be a full-body apparition that even she, being a skeptic, could not explain away. In cell block 4, a locksmith in the 1990s said he had just unlocked the cell block when something gripped him so tightly he could not move. A negative force emanated from the cell, and he saw tormented faces along the wall. One beckoning him to come closer.
Should lay up the booze, buddy.
Closer. In cell block 6, it is said shadowy figures are said to roam the cell block. There have been reports of people being seen disappearing in the cells, and then when they got there was no one in the cell. Cell block 12, voices and laughter have been reported coming from an empty cell block. The doors on third floor opened by themselves. It was also cell block 12 where ghost hunters believed they had spotted something moving. Cell block 15, death row, whispers can be heard coming from the cells as you walk past. Witnesses have claimed to see a figure running. Now this one I found interesting. In Al Capone's cell, which they say they don't know which cell was Al Capone's.
Yeah.
They just have that one cell dressed up like it.
Yeah.
One of the men that was killed during the St. Valentine's Day massacre was Albert Klaklek.
I would say Kachelik.
Kachelik? I don't know, Klaklek.
Klacklick? Close.
Albert Klitlick, a.k.a. James Jimmy...
A.k.a. the mouth.
James Jimmy Clark, is thought to haunt Capone. And so they could hear Capone screaming and begging for someone named Jimmy Clark. And then supposedly when he got locked up in Alcatraz, the same thing happened. So it could have just been Al Capone being a nut.
He did have syphilis.
Yeah.
That makes you mad.
Yeah. In the infirmary, some say there is an uneasy feeling falls over them while they're in there, and as if they're being watched by unknown forces. Voices and screams have been heard coming from the infirmary, and other people have heard sobbing and people crying out in pain. A fun fact is, 12 Monkeys, portions of the 12 Monkeys movie were filmed at Eastern State Penitentiary.
Get out. Oh.
Warden Herbert Hardboiled Smith was a 19.
How did he get that name?
He was the warden in the 1920s and 30s, and is said to be responsible for such inhumane punishments.
I wanted to see what happened when I dug my nuts and tried to hardboil my nuts.
He was responsible for the ice bath and the mad chair.
Oh my God! Warden Herbert, no nuts, hardboiled Smith.
There is a place under cell block 14, which is just a pit used for extreme punishment for one person, called the Hole.
It's literally a hole.
So they said that the most haunted spots are apparently a vortex described by the locksmith happened at one of the doors between the private exercise yard and the baseball field. Cell block 12, last cell on the right on the catwalk, a figure walks out. There is also said to be a photo captured a full-body apparition in cell block 2 on the east side that was described by the former tour guide. The prison became overcrowded as Philadelphia's population blossomed, and in the 1920s, 2,000 prisoners were kept in a space designed for 300. As newer prisons were built that could house more population, Eastern State fell into despair. It was closed in 1970, aside from a brief period where it was used as temporary holding for inmates involved in the Holmesburg prison riot in 1971. It was left to decay for over 20 years. It was designated as a historic landmark in 1965.
Wow.
A lot of information.
Yeah, and then you know where a lot of that decay is from? Fucking architect. He didn't design the God's Eye properly. the little slit in the ceiling. It's supposed to be a keystone, but he wanted the most light coming into the cell. So it's like the opposite of a keystone. So it just falls right out.
Oh, okay.
So a keystone should be big on the top, like wider angle at the top, and then come down.
Okay.
To a more acute angle, and that's the opposite. It's just
I like cute angles.
Cute angles. There's a cute angle right underneath this table.
So I'd like to make another trip down there when we'd have more time to spend. Because really, when we went down, we only had like
under an hour.
Like an hour.
That sucked. It was still cool though.
And 20 minutes of that was you pissing.
Oh God, don't even. I probably wanted down there.
And Andy Dufresne.
Another thing I thought was interesting in that documentary too, he said that they used to, I think this was in the 1800s, they used to rent out the prison, or not rent it out, but they used to have big parties there. And who was it, a friend, and they said they would bring inmates in there, and like the women were like banging the inmates, and a lot of like booze, whatever, just a lot of shenanigans going on. And it was quoted that I believe one of the warden's friend's wife did not like the warden, and she was like a loudmouth drunk, and she quoted that she says, "I'd like to get a hold of that Quaker bastard and beat the shit out of him," or something to that effect. And she called him a Quaker bastard. How else did I want? I want to say a couple of different things. I wasn't sure. I don't want to jump ahead.
No, I was hoping you'd tell us story because you told me that to me on our way home.
Which one?
That one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I only found that out when you sent me that thing.
Oh, okay. I watched that. That's right. I watched that video after we got home.
But
because I go down a rabbit hole when I get
a lot of scandal. Oh yeah, and then there must have been like tons of wardens. The timeline's all over the place, and I guess it's just kind of lost to history. And but they said at one point that they allowed the convicts to basically apprenticeship, or like say they had this one guy, he was a carpenter, and he was making furniture, and so they let him sell it to the public and keep the money. They didn't take any of their money from him.
Wow.
And they said this one convict made more money than the warden did. They said the warden made something like $6,000 a year, and he made $22,000 a year selling his furniture. And then, once you would leave or die, you would basically sell your enterprise to another inmate, and they pay you for it, and you leave, and they take over it.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? It's like, son of a bitch, this guy's making more money. Like a lot more money than me.
Go to jail, become a thousandaire.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's Eastern State Penitentiary. If you're ever in Philly, I would say go check it out. Even though the tour is not as good as it used to be,
right?
Go check it out.
The tour's not there anymore. And I would highly suggest spending 6 hours at Yard's Brewery, filling your tank up, and then going there. God, that thing's invincible. It's the same fruit fly that's been down here for like 6 months.
So we took on the Eastern State Penitentiary. John's taking on a fruit fly.
I think the fruit fly's taking me on.
Now you guys go out and take on the world.
Our podcasts exist because of listeners like you. To find other great shows, head over to the den.show. Thanks for listening.
Hold on, stop.
Welcome back to the Shit Show 2.0.
Okay, Boomer.
Damn millennials. Wow.
Did not know that. Even flirters who are obviously mentally ill.
You want to be my wife?
Oh, this is gonna go downhill real quick.